What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy Motor City Don P. We are back, and you already know what time it is. It is time to talk about stuff. And in the off season, stuff is all we got. Unfortunately, it is the off season for the Detroit Lions, while other people are still playing. Imagine that. But we got some things that we're going to get into today. But before we do that, as you know, when you see me in front of your TV, one thing is for certain, and three things are for sure. Number one, the Motor City Cats are indeed back at it. Number two, we came to give you stats, not none of that static. And number three, perhaps the most important number of them all, number three. Want to make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. You may be asking yourself, how, Don, how, Mr. P, does one keep their Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's very simple. It's easy. I'll tell you. I'll let you know. I'm not gonna hide it from you. Smash like button, subscribe, share with your peoples. And once you've done those things in any order that you've done them, you've indeed kept your Lions news pragmatic. And speaking of your peoples, once you've shared this with your mothers, your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, your cousins, your uncles, your brothers, your fathers, your sisters, you name it, you have indeed cared about these people. What up, though, Zach J? What up, though, everybody in the chat? What up, though, to everyone who's out there lurking and maybe you're twerking and doing something else while you're lurking? I don't know. I don't want to know. So we got the news today. It wasn't the news that we expected. Somebody from the Detroit Lions retired. And it wasn't the lineman that we expected to retire in Taylor Decker. No, it was one Dan Skipper. Dan Skipper has reported as retired. Now, I don't know if Brad Allen can screw this one up. I don't know if he can throw a flag on him and tell him that he's not allowed to retire. I don't know. But this is a bit of a blow to the Detroit Lions. And here's a reason why. We know that Dan Skipper, while never fantastic, never phenomenal, was solid. And you could always count on him to play a reserve role and do it solidly. He may not have wowed you. He may not have been a superstar, but he was always going to give you 110%. He was always going to be gutsy. I mean, everybody remembers the when he was throwing up after that game, you know, and Dan Campbell was like, yeah, you keep throwing up over there, Skip, because he had played his heart out. And he was very, very, very effective in that game. You look at the game that he came in and he started as a guard against the Packers and didn't allow any sacks on Jared Goff. This is a bigger blow to the team than a lot of people realize. This is a bigger blow to our offensive line than a lot of people realize. Because the first name I heard being thrown out, who's going to play that swing tackle role, who's going to fill in for Dan Skipper, was Giovanni Manu. Giovanni Manu was so bad that he played one game and they put him on injured reserve for the rest of the season. Let that sink in. Giovanni Manu was so bad that he played one game and they put him on injured reserve for the rest of the season. You're not coming back, bro. You're terrible. Giovanni Manu is a guy that they have expressed zero faith and confidence in, with Brad Holmes saying it wouldn't be fair to expect Giovanni Manu to step in as a starter this coming season. With Brad Campbell saying, yeah, he's on the roster, but he's going to have to go and earn a spot. He's going to have to take it from somebody. This is the guy that's going to be replacing Dan Skipper, possibly, maybe. No. It's unfortunate, guys, but this is an offseason where we have far too many holes. We've got a litany of free agents that we don't know if we're bringing them back. We're crying poor. We don't know about our cap space, yada, yada, yada. But this is an offseason where Brad Holmes can't afford to be bargain bin Brad. He can't afford to be cheap. We need a center. You got to go get one. That's just the bottom line. You must go get a center. You might need to go get a tackle, right? Now, again, someone was telling me yesterday, well, regardless of what Taylor Decker does, we need to get a tackle anyway. Well, here's the thing. If Taylor Decker is going to come back and play football, we know he's not going to be healthy for the entire year. So maybe you go out and you get in the 4th round a tackle, right? Now, why do I say that? He's in the 4th round. Maybe there were some concerns about his arm length, or something, right? Maybe you trade back up into the 3rd round and get someone who's highly rated, but he's fallen for some reason. Now, trading into the 3rd round to get someone of that nature, I have no problems with. But using a 3rd round pick to trade into the 4th to draft Giovanni Manu was asinine. And a lot of people are starting to see those moves as the Broderick Martin pick, the Hendon Hooker pick, the Isaac Tesla pick, the Giovanni Manu pick. A lot of people are starting to realize and see that those types of picks did nothing for our team but leave holes all throughout the roster because we can't use the 3rd round picks to fill the holes via trade or selections. Right now, we have picks in the 1st round, the 2nd round, the 4th round. I think we have a couple in the 4th round because we get a compensatory pick for Carlton Davis leaving and signing a big deal, right? 5th, 6th, and 7th, right? And one of the things that we've got to stop believing is this. A guy that comes in from the 6th round is penciled in as a starter. Malcolm Rodriguez has provided great depth for this team. That's what he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be depth. He's supposed to be a special teams player. So the days of thinking that Brad Holmes is going to go out and get a 1st rounder or a starter in the 6th round, we need to stop that. Just like everybody lost their crap about Ahmed Hassani last season. My man never played a single snap. He was getting nicknames. He was doing all. He never played a single snap. So we've got a lot that we've got to do, and this Dan Skipper situation just isn't great news. Now, happy for Dan Skipper. Dan Skipper was a warrior. Dan Skipper worked his ass off every single season. He kind of found a home with the Detroit Lions, but he was still getting cut. He was still going to the practice squad, being put on waivers and all of these things with the Lions, right? But he did find a home for the with the Detroit Lions. Before that, I mean, he bounced around the league. I think he was cut like every year of his career. You know, so having a guy like that who's a glue guy in the offensive line room and replacing him with a Manu, it's not great, Bob. It's not great. Zach J says, sorry, Skipper, you can't retire because you have to report at retiring, and you never did that. I just picture like a Scooby-Doo episode where they unmask Manu and it's Broderick Martin under the mask. That's pretty crazy. That is pretty crazy. Um, all right. So one thing that I'm gonna touch on briefly. Pause. Um, Shout out to the heavies. Shout out to Ted Wynn, detailing what the top defenses in the league do and the Lions don't. And the Lions have a player in Brian Branch, which would help them play nickel so much more, like the top teams are doing. And they decided that because Kyle Shanahan said, we played this different personnel, this heavy personnel to keep Brian Branch off the field, they decided to just move him to safety full time instead of being dynamic. You guys have heard me talk about defense a lot. And one of the things that I've always said to you guys about defense is you have to be multiple. You have to be multiple. You cannot just stubbornly just stick to this man. We're just going to do man coverage. And if you beat us, you beat us. I don't understand the philosophy. For as much good as Dan Campbell does, for much good as his staff does, I don't understand the stuck in your ways mentality that they have. If you have a way that works for you, shout out to the Baltimore Ravens hiring Jesse Minter, who was the defensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh in LA. They hired Jesse Minter as their head coach. What is he? He's a defensive coordinator. He's a defensive minded head coach. What was wrong with Baltimore this season? Their defense. Even though, even though Lamar Jackson was hurt for most of the season, he dealt with multiple injuries. Their defense was the problem. When we played the Baltimore Ravens, their defense couldn't stop our offense. And that was a Johnny Mo offense. The Baltimore Ravens were bad on defense this year. That's crazy to say. So the Baltimore Ravens said, we're hiring Jesse Minter because he's going to bring us back to Baltimore Ravens football, which means we are going to play very good, very sound, very aggressive defense. Now, you may not take it back to the days of Ed Reed, T Sizzle, Ray Lewis. You may not take it all the way back there, but you are going to go back to your roots, which is defense. What is the Lions' root? Our greatest players have been on the offensive side of the ball and Barry Sanders and Calvin Johnson. So does that mean that our identity, our roots is offense? Well, if that's the case, then you should have gone out and got Mike McDaniel instead of what you did. But the defensive situation with the top teams playing nickel 60% of the time, and the Lions is not doing that. Sometimes I feel like the Lions are trying to go back to the old school in a new school era. The 3 linebackers, who else does that? We owe Alex Anzalone, Jack Campbell, and Derek Barnes. Who does that? I've been saying for a long time that, hey, Let's replace Derek Barnes with a stand-up rusher on the opposite side of Hutch. Or we could replace it with a nickelback. It doesn't like the dynamism is not there. If you're gonna play this type of defense, you have to have really athletic linebackers. The athleticism of Jack Campbell is on display. Alex Anzalone is one of, if not he's top 3 best coverage linebackers in the NFL. And you pay Derek Barnes. And you know why you paid Derek Barnes? Because Coach Shep came in here and said Derek Barnes is a non-negotiable. That's my guy. I have to have him. It's like we just do things that kind of fly in the face of common sense. We do things that fly in the face of innovation. The NFL is a copycat league. Oh, we tried to get Devon Witherspoon. We tried that. But we got Jahmyr Gibbs instead because Seattle got him. Oh, we tried to get this guy. We tried that. But we got someone else because someone else got him. We tried to get Jared Verse, apparently. But we didn't because the Rams got him instead. We tried to get James Pierce Jr., but we didn't because the Falcons traded back up into the first round and got him instead. And I'm sure there's so many more people that we tried to get. We try, but we just never do. So now we're looking at Kirby Joseph with a degenerative knee injury, and we don't know what his future holds. Now we're looking at a guy like Brian Branch, who is perfect for this type of defense. And then the question is, well, what do you do? Because if you let him hit free agency, and because of the Achilles injury, he's not going to be back until late in the season. Probably like late November, early December is when Brian Branch will be available to play football again. Unless he did that, surgery that we talked about before, um, you know, a couple months ago when he hurt it. This surgery that they have is kind of like cutting edge, which allows you to be back from an Achilles tear in 6 months. Unless he did that, we don't know. We didn't get any information about what kind of surgery he got. But do you pay him? You can't let him walk, right? What do you do? And if you're gonna pay him, are you paying him early and saying, "Hey, man, we're gonna lock you up, but we're gonna give you $5 million less than what you deserve"? Because again, we don't know what you're gonna be. If you come back and you're dynamic, then that $15 million was a steal. If you come back and you have no explosiveness and you just can't move anymore like you used to be able to, then that $15 million was a stupid ass contract. This one, it's a tough situation. It's 50-50. And in this situation, I know I've been very critical of Brad Holmes. I I don't know what to do in this situation. It's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't situations. And we have those sometimes. But one thing is for certain, and three things are for sure. Number one, you got to fix the defense. Number two, the defense has been ass. Number three, the defense is atrocious. Let me get to your comments. because I know there's a bunch of them. If Dan punts when he should at his own end of the field, take points, stop putting pressure on his defense, they will be fine. I can't agree with that. I can't agree with that one because there have been many times that this defense has given up 90 plus yard touchdown drives. How many times did teams get pinned inside of the 5 yard line? Shout out Jack Fox. And you were absolutely 100% sure that they were not going to drive the length of the football field and score a touchdown, or at least come away with points. Because all it takes for me, once I see, and I and I gave a stat, and I know I made this stat up, but it seems true, right? That the Detroit Lions have given up more 95 plus yard touchdown drives than anybody in the NFL history. It's just something about it. It's the same way as if you have a dropped interception or you don't recover a fumble, 99% of the time, the other team is going to score on you if you're the Detroit Lions. It never fails. If you drop an interception, if you don't recover that fumble, the Lions defense will fail to stop the points from happening. So I can't agree with that. I'm not gonna put that on Dan. What up though, Mr. Morale 313? How many people are offended by what St. Brown said? We talked about that yesterday. Uh there's a lot of people that are offended about it. I just thought it was dumb. You know what I mean? I thought it was a dumb move to attack the fans and to say that the fans don't know ball. There was one guy in here that was just setting me off yesterday. It was Artur. He came in under an alias, um, and basically was trying to say the opinion of the fans doesn't matter, which is the most asinine thing I've ever heard. And I've heard some pretty asinine things. It was up there. Again, my thing was you could have said it in a different way. You didn't have to include the fans, you know? Or if you wanted to include the fans, just what you said at the end, just relax and let it play out. Hey man, I know, and I saw a lot of comments and things like this on Twitter, and fans were upset, and they didn't really know a whole lot about the guy. Hell, I didn't know a whole lot about the guy. But y'all, if you trust Dan, just relax and let it play out. You don't know ball. You don't know much of anything. That was stupid. That was dumb, bro. And you're not gonna win that battle. This is not. It didn't make sense. So while I wasn't particularly offended, I just thought it was a dumb thing to say. It wasn't great. I hope Skip stays on the staff. So Skip is going to be coaching. I think he's going to be coaching in the East West Shrine game. And he'll probably find his way back to the Lions, as everyone does, man. Um, as everyone does. It's crazy how all you have to do is be a former player, and that's it. What the frick is that? Hold on. Um, so yeah, he'll probably be back. What up, though, Herb Gotti? I respect Skip for being the utmost pro. Facts. Branch is the easiest tag I've ever seen. Franchise tag, yeah, yeah. Have to. Yeah. We could have traded up for Jalen Carter. That means Campbell be gone. Well, we wouldn't have. Yeah, we wouldn't have Jack Campbell. You have to tag Brian Branch. I would pay the tag money for Branch to see what we have. Um, that's probably going to be what happens. Even though they don't like to use the franchise tag. I actually forgot about the franchise tag since we don't use it. And the best way to improve injuries to revoke full Pat Fridays. Again, I mean, they said they're gonna look at stuff, but are they though? Are they really gonna look at stuff? But we finally got a middle linebacker. That's true. I wasn't offended because I felt like he was talking to the fans who don't know ball, uh, not the wine. Um, Again, like he was, but the reason that people are gonna be upset about it is because he said it. And there's a lot of people that don't know ball, right? So uh they're gonna be really offended. But also the upsetting thing about it for those that do know ball was this. You're telling us in one breath that we should trust Dan Campbell. And, do you think the Lions are just going to hire just some random guy, anybody that they don't do their research, blah, 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 blah? We just came off of Johnny Moe, bro. That's the problem with your stance. All of it was all bad. All of it. Because you look really bad saying you think they're just gonna hire some random dude. Anthony Lynn and then Johnny Moe this past season were both fired after being relieved of their play calling duties because they were trash. So I mean, again, it didn't make sense to say what he said. Not the ones who do. Yeah. How long are fans supposed to trust Brad and Dan? We trusted them with Darius, Johnny Morton, Davenport, and so on. If I made bad mistakes on my job, I would be fired. Yeah, that's the thing. Um, yeah, you get fired for being bad at your job. What up though? Sorry, I'm late. Just got out of the gym. Push day. No problem, no problem. All right. Um, so there was an article I wanted to go over with you guys. Um, and give me 1 second to be right back. 1 second. Alrighty. Um, so this article, which was interesting, was this. Where are my articles? Hold on. Okay. All right. Uh Detroit Lions star and Super Bowl champion shocks everybody by announcing his retirement. That's crazy. Detroit Lions star is crazy. I wish Dan Skipper was a star. Um, but yeah, I'm sorry. All right. So here is this is from Detroit Lions on SI. Um, as always, let me pull this in so I can see what you guys are saying while looking at this article. All right. So this is from Christian Boer. You know, I've had my battles with Christian. So we may be in agreement, we may not be. It says Lions 2026 offseason game plan, do's and don'ts. Um, I can't even see that because of how I got the way my checking and savings. Okay. St. Brown didn't bother. He just has to learn not to PI when the game is on the line. uh Don, the best answer for Branch is the tag. I agree. I agree. All right. The Detroit Lions are looking to get back into the contender mix for the 2026 season. After underachieving in 2025 and missing the postseason, the team is looking to return to form and get back to competing at the highest level. One of their biggest offseason questions has already been answered as they've hired a new offensive coordinator in Drew Petzing, or Drew Pretzel, as I like to call him. Um, while they now have a big addition to their coaching staff, they still have plenty of pressing needs to be addressed throughout the player acquisition phase of free agency. Do's, add young edge help. Okay. I agree with them, but I don't agree with them before I even read it. I agree with them because it's a need. I don't agree because to get young edge help, you need to spend a first round draft pick or maybe even a second round draft pick. But again, it also depends on what they do in free agency. If they can get a top tier center in here in free agency, then that kind of frees up your first round draft pick. And the reason that it frees up your first round draft pick is this: you don't have to pick a center or a tackle or anything of that nature in the first round because you have already taken care of what you needed to take care of. Right? If you don't in free agency, I have a very hard time believing that Brad Holmes is going to go out and spend the money that needs to be spent in order to acquire an edge rusher because he already told you he wasn't going to. Stop asking. I'm not going to. I'm not going to. So stop asking. Okay. So said the Lions finished tied for fourth in sacks in 2025, which is bad news. It's bad news that we finished in the top 5 in sacks because it led Brad Holmes to say, "Oh, we don't need to do anything different," because he wasn't looking at the sacks. He was just looking at the numbers. He wasn't looking at how we got the sacks. He wasn't looking at how inconsistent we were with sacks. As I said, AQM, great job, bro. Great job. Phenomenal. 11 sacks for a guy who's been a journeyman and he's in the late stages of his career. Phenomenal. There are 17 games that we play, right? 10 of those games he did not record a sack. So that means that he got 11 sacks or 11 and a half sacks in 7 games, which is what we said about Marcus Davenport when his best season was 9 sacks in 11 games, 9 sacks in 11 games, and he only played 11 games because Marcus Davenport gets hurt all the time. AQM wasn't hurt. He was available for at least 16 of those 17 games. I think he may have missed a game due to injury, a game or two. So it was the inconsistent things like that, right? You saw Hutch being more consistent and getting sacks in more games than that. Okay. It's good that you got the numbers, but let's say you do this. Let's say you finish the season with 50 sacks because in week number 1, you got 50 sacks. I mean, and this is obviously would never happen. You finish the season with 50 sacks, but in week 1, you got 50 sacks. And in the remaining 16 games, you never sacked the quarterback. Wouldn't you rather those 50 sacks be consistent? Because when they're consistent, they're helping you win games, right? I don't care if you got 7 sacks in one game. Yeah, it helped you win the game, but then the next game you come and you get 0 sacks. Like we sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times, and that was phenomenal. It was great. What happened next week? What happened a week after that? You needed those 7 sacks to beat Lamar Jackson. I don't deny. You needed those 7 sacks. But you also needed sacks in this game that you lost. You needed more sacks in the Pittsburgh Steelers game. You needed more sacks in the Rams game. How much pressure was Matthew Stafford under? You saw the Bears put him under all types of pressure. And this is just for those fans who don't know ball. And they just look at the numbers. Oh, AQM had a phenomenal season because he had 11 and a half sacks. Yes, but no. It was phenomenal for him because his cap number is going to go up and he's going to get the bag. It wasn't phenomenal because it was inconsistent. There were 10 games left with nothing taken off the bone. All meat on the bone for 10 games. All of the meat. No bites at the apple. You see the food references? You see what I did there? Football is, after all, just a ploy to sell food. Hashtag if you know, you know. So that's going to be, again, you got to get it done in the draft, which means you have to address the offensive line in free agency. If you want to see a young edge rusher in here, it's you gotta not strike out in free agency. You gotta make some trades. You gotta do some things to address that offensive line before the draft. Led by Aiden Hutchinson's career best 14 and a half, the 4th-year Michigan product earned a hefty raise after putting forth the best season of his career coming off an injury. Hutchinson got some help in the form of a breakout season from El-Quadin Muhammad, who had a career best 11 sacks. However, Muhammad is a free agent, and Hutchinson and Ahmed Hassanin are the only 2 players currently under contract at the position. We don't need young edge help at all. Ahmed Hassanin is here. Guys, what are we talking about? Ahmed Hassanin is here. He's still on the roster. He's the Egyptian magician. He's going to get you all the sacks that you need. He's going to surpass El-Quadin Muhammad. He's going to have a better season than James Houston. He's going to do it all. Hell, he might give Hutch a run for his money. Because Hutch just what? Hell, forget Hutch, man. What am I talking about? I'm underselling this to the Myles Garrett just broke the sack record this year, and he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Ahmed Hassanin going to do the same thing next year. He's going to break Myles Garrett's new record, and he's going to be the Defensive Player of the Year. Guys, we don't need young edge help. What are we talking about? I vehemently disagree with Christian Boer. I'm not serious. Just in case someone comes from the top rope like, are you effing serious? No, I'm not. I'm being facetious and sarcastic. And I have to put these disclaimers in because we have people like Artur who come in here and don't understand basic supply and demand. Okay, so I'm just saying. All right. Even if the Lions want to retain Muhammad, they should prioritize bringing in another contributor at the position. Specifically, drafting an edge would be beneficial. It would be beneficial. It would have been beneficial for the last 5 years. And not drafting an edge in the 6th round, it would have been beneficial for the last 5 years. Aiden Hutchinson, guys, Aiden Hutchinson and James Houston. Who else? Lisa, yes, Skip is retiring, effective immediately, and is going to immediately transition into coaching. Not initially on the Lions staff, but East West Shrine Bowl type stuff. What did we what Aiden Hutchinson, guys? How many edges has Brad Holmes drafted? He said specifically drafting an edge would be beneficial, as it is one of the most valued positions in the game, and signing one in free agency could be detrimental to an already stringent cap situation. 6th round, I don't know. Is that good enough, guys? 6th round, I don't know. 6th round, I don't know. You tell me. Detroit has shown under Holmes that it won't reach for a player based on position in the draft, but if the opportunity arises, then the front office should certainly pounce to add young talent that is ready to contribute at the edge position. So right now, we're looking at Aiden Hutchinson, 2nd overall pick, James Houston, 6th rounder, Ahmed Hassani, 6th rounder. But we liked Jared Verse and we liked James Pierce Jr., but we didn't do anything to go get him. I don't know if they like Shamar Stewart as well. I'm not exactly sure. But we didn't do anything to go get the guys that we liked. Got a hold over here. I'll read this one. Johnny Moe wasn't random, though. He was there when the Johnson offense was being implemented, so the hire makes sense. Lynn, on the other hand, I didn't care about him because the whole team was cheeks. Okay, Johnny Moe wasn't random, but he also wasn't any good. So the trusting part is, do you have an eye for coordinator talent? Your track record doesn't say that you do. As I said, Osama bin Johnson was a holdover from the Fatty Matty Patty era. Sorry, I said era, which is the correct word, but error is the word I should say. And the strength of schedules came out. We have the 6th easiest schedule. Not so fast, my friend. Not so fast. The strength of schedule came out last season, and I told you guys that there was still a way, there was a pathway to going 15-2. And the pathway was we lose to the Ravens and we lose to the Eagles because they're built pretty much the same way. And I was afraid of those teams. And then we beat the Ravens and we lost to the Eagles, which meant we should have been 16-1, right? No, because our offensive line was dead. Our defense sucked ass. We had ineffective counsel. We were represented by the law firm of Johnny Moe and Johnny Moe. So we had ineffective counsel. Okay. And then I'm sorry, the law offices of Johnny Moe and Shep. Okay, let's do it that way because we had ineffective counsel on both sides of the ball. So I don't know. I don't know what the strength of schedule even means because I haven't seen the finished product of what this team is going to be and we have so many holes. Pause. We have so many holes to fill. Pause. There's so many of them. You guys know ball. You know how many holes we have to fill. And I can't say enough. I can't say enough. There were third round picks that we could have used to fill them in one way or the other. Trades, drafting. We could have done it, but we don't have them anymore. So, man, let me get on topic. It's all good. But we all know Melvin is going to re-sign Davenport, bro. I'm telling you, if that man re-signs Davenport, I'm going to have an entire crash out episode. An entire. All I'm going to be doing is crashing out, and I'm going to be repeating the phrase "Fire Brad right goddamn now." Fire. I'm going to say something that I can't finish. Tactical Sport, I'm sure you know it. Mr. Morale 313, I'm sure you know it. Guilty. That is guilty. Hang that. Now I got the rope right here. Okay. That's gonna be it for me. That's gonna be it. So he better not. He still made Ben Johnson OC. He did make Ben Johnson OC, but as I told you yesterday, I don't know if you heard this yesterday. Ben Johnson was in the club and he was looking at this female all night, and she wasn't checking for him at all. And then Ben Johnson went and shot his shot. And she said, "You know what? I'm going to give you a shot." And that's what happened with Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson was in the building. Dan Campbell was not checking for him at all. And he came up to Dan and said, "Hey, man, I got these plays." And Dan looked at the plays and he was like, we might got something here. That's all I'm saying. You had to wait for a shot to be shot. What position do you want them to draft first, Don? There's so many holes. There's so many holes. I don't know. I don't even want them to draft a center. I want you to go sign one in free agency. And then based off of Taylor Decker, if we can get a really good young tackle who's going to be the anchor for 10 years, yeah, draft that tackle, whether Taylor Decker is coming back or not. Because at the end of the day, he said ideally he would like to play one more season at least. So if he wants to play at least one more season, then we have his replacement waiting in the wings. And it's not just waiting in the wings because he's going to get injured. His body's breaking down. So he's going to miss games. He's going to miss snaps. So probably a tackle. Right? But then if there's a young, dynamic defensive end who can kill the quarterback at a high rate, and we can have him under contract for the next 5 years, that's also enticing. So what they do in free agency is going to be very, very telling about what they're going to do in the draft, if that makes sense, regardless of how that might sound. Good evening, Jonathan Anton. If he resigns Davenport, I'm no longer a Lions fan. I'm not going to go that far. I can't hang up my Lions fanship, but I can hang up on Brad Holmes. You know what I'm saying? Hey, Motor City Don Pete, Brad Holmes on line 1. I'm no longer taking his calls. And that's what the entire fan base needs to do. Hey fans, Brad Holmes on line 1. He wants to talk to you. We're no longer taking his calls. Tell him we're not home. Tell him to leave a message. It's over. You know what I'm saying? Garrett would retire before coming to Detroit like Za'Darius. Don't think he would put up the numbers here. It's not built for him. That's false. And when did we get on Myles Garrett coming here? Um, yeah, Myles Garrett would definitely put up numbers here next to Hutch for sure. Like that's not even a question. Um, Messidor, is he going to be available? Did you see what John Harbaugh did? He didn't sign with the Giants until it was in writing that he reports to the owner, not the GM. Uh the GM is an idiot. Is Joe Shine still, bro? Nobody has any respect for that man. Nobody does. So I would say, yeah, that makes whole lot of sense. From what I gathered, the Lions need a center, an LT or RT, linebacker, safety, uh, and the free agent. Bro, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, we need a corner. I'm not gonna hold you. We need a corner. DJ Reed was ass cheeks, bro. He had a game in which he got an interception, and that was the Cleveland Browns. Oh, ye of little quarterback play, the Cleveland Browns. He got an interception there. And I think he had one more interception. Was it in the Bucks game? I'm not sure. DJ Reed was in the sprinter stance all year, hauling ass behind the person that was burning him. He was reminding me of Jeffrey Namumbo. Oh, hell no, Kuda. Always in trail position, always trying to catch up to the dude that burnt him. Now, is he a better corner than Jeffrey Namumbo? Of course. I'm a better corner than Jeffrey Namumbo. You give me the same size of Jeffrey Namumbo, and bruh, I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm just saying. Just, catch me outside. How about that? Catch me outside. How about that? Okay. Um, FSDE and the CB. Right. So what is that? 9, 10 holes that we got to fill? Pause. That's a whole side of the ball. We probably need a defensive tackle too. Well, I mean, I think they just re-signed Roy Lopez and they roll with Tyleek. Uh, and they feel, I guess, like Alim is going to get back to form. Not sure. Does Tesla become the wide receiver 3 this year? I guess, but I don't really care. It was a stupid pick. It's just 3 third rounders when you had no offensive line, no defense. I don't like. No. Really, really, unless Tesla is the reason that we win shootouts this season because our defense is cheeks. I don't know how you justify it. What is the metric? And I'll ask this question to you guys as we go into mailbag. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they reading you? Snick, mailbag. Get your mailbag questions in. Get them in. Bask in it. Maybe we'll finish the rest of the article tomorrow. But the question is to you guys, what are the metrics that you have to see that will make you happy with the Tesla pick? We're not talking about the player and Isaac Tesla. He's a good player. He's talented. These, that, and the third thing. But what are the metrics that he has to reach in a season for you to say that it was worth 3 third-round picks to go and get a luxury wide receiver when we needed offensive line help, when we needed defensive help, when we need defensive line help, when we needed secondary help, and so on and so forth and the like? What are those metrics to you guys? Uh, you keep hitting send. Um, DJ Reed was terrible. We do need a CB. Facts. He was booty butt, booty butt, booty butt cheeks, rump. Yep, and the DT. Yeah, as I said, we need like almost a whole side of the ball. Definitely needs to be because you only have so many draft picks. And the thing about draft picks is the further down in the draft you go, the worse the talent gets. It's how it's designed. Tesla is never open. You never see any separation. But what's the metric? What is the metric that you need to see? 800 yards, 7 TDs, and a Super Bowl. And he has to catch the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. Right? I'll put that caveat in there. You must catch the game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. I'll take a couple mailbag questions if you guys got them in, because as I said, these Thursday shows have to be tight to the wire. 1 hour exactly, because I got stuff to do. Yeah, 7 and 800 is about right. But now we need a tight end because of what Drew Pretzel likes. Drew Pretzel. I can't say his name without putting an R in it. So I call him Drew Pretzel. Okay. I don't know why. It's a strange name. Okay. What can he do with all the wide receivers that we have, because he loves 13 personnel? So now we need another tight end because we don't know what's happening with Sam Laporta and his back. I hope they get one in free agency. I hope they don't draft one. I really do. Go get a guy in free agency, a tight end. They're a dime a dozen. Don't you draft the first round tight end or a round one. No, don't. I'm telling you, do not. I mean, this defense has been neglected enough. This offensive line has been neglected enough. Guys, remember, I've said this before. All the rounds in which Brad Holmes has drafted offensive linemen are terrible. Tate Ratledge is the second highest drafted offensive lineman, and he was drafted in the second round behind Penei Sewell. Are you a bust? What the frick is JMO a bust? What are we talking about? Tim Patrick never looked open, but almost always caught the ball. Tesla needs to look like Patrick. Okay. He looks like the Megamind cartoon dude to me. Yeah. What's Brock Wright's status? I think he's back healthy. He was injured last season, so check out the Discord. Okay, I'll check it out. uh, let's see where it is. I don't know. I'm just seeing missed calls and stuff. Lions chat. Oh, okay, there we go. Oh my god, that's crazy. Oh my goodness. That is crazy. Wow. I'm just gonna post that on Twitter with no context. I'm just gonna post it. Oh my god. I'm not even gonna say anything. I'm just gonna post a picture. Mailbag. So Jesse mentored the new head coach of the Ravens. What do you think about that? Perfect fit. I talked about that earlier about how the Ravens are a defensive team. They always have been, and they needed to get back to that. The problem with the Ravens this year was their defense, even though Lamar Jackson was hurt often. Detroit players pan with Cleveland. History has shown that have to go back to the 60s. All right. Cleveland players just don't pan out with Detroit. I think if Myles Garrett, a generational player, was on any roster, he'd pan out. I don't think any of that matters. If he is on anybody's roster, he's panning out. That's just if Jim Brown was on anybody's roster, he'd have panned out. It just all right, y'all. I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. As I said, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll try to finish up that article. Um, Once again, the Motor City Cats R&D back at it. We came to give you stats, not none of that static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And we are out. Peace. Appreciate y'all.